After a tragedy like that, recent mid-air collision near D.C., it's understandable if people feel a little shaken up about flying. But I was reading these stories about how some pilots really stepped up to reassure their passengers.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like there was that American Airlines pilot on a flight from Jacksonville to Miami.
Right.
And then there was Delta, Captain Phil Ritt-Smith.
Yeah, Captain Smith's speech that was recorded by a passenger, that one really struck a chord, didn't it? It really resonated with a lot of people
Yeah.
who were feeling anxious about flying after that.
It's interesting because it went beyond the usual, pre-flight announcements, right?
Right.
It felt like a real moment of human connection, where they actually acknowledged the fear and offered comfort.
Yeah.
And it made me think about how we all deal with fear, not just when it comes to flying.
That's a great point. I think what those pilots did that was so effective was they tapped into our very human need for stability and control, especially when things feel chaotic and out of control. Fear is just a natural human response. It's primal, but it's how we choose to react to it that makes all the difference.
Well, the article we're diving into today actually highlights 4 lessons from these pilots' actions that we can all apply to everyday life.
Interesting.
And the first one that really jumped out at me was, acknowledge your fears.
It sounds so simple, but so many of us try to ignore or suppress our fears, right?
Yeah.
But just like those pilots kind of named the elephant in the room, the fear of flying after a tragedy,
Right.
I think we can benefit from acknowledging our fears instead of pretending they don't exist.
I think sometimes we're afraid that if we give them too much attention, they'll just become bigger.
Right.
But maybe it's actually the opposite.
It could be, yeah.
By acknowledging them, we can start to understand them and take away their power.
Yeah. Think about it like this. When we try to push a beach ball underwater, it just keeps popping back up, right? With even more force. But if we just hold it gently, it becomes much more manageable. I think our fears are a lot like that beach ball.
So instead of fighting against them, we try to just understand them better. What would that look like in practice?
Well, it could be as simple as just naming the fear, saying, okay, I'm feeling anxious about this presentation. Even that simple act of acknowledging it can really take away some of its power.
Yeah, it's like you're shining a light on it instead of letting it lurk in the shadows.
Exactly.
So, okay, we've acknowledged the fear. Now what?
Well, I think then we can start to kind of explore it a bit. Why am I feeling this way? What are the specific things that I'm afraid of? And then is there anything I can do to prepare for those things or to mitigate the risks?
And that leads us to the second lesson that the article highlights, which is focusing on what we can control.
Okay.
And this feels really relevant in situations where we feel powerless,
Right.
like after a tragedy or during uncertain times.
Absolutely. Just like those pilots can't control the weather or other aircraft, there are so many things in life that are just outside of our control.
Right.
But what we can control are our responses, our preparation, and our mindset.
It's about shifting our focus from the things that we can't control to the things we can. And those pilots, they provide such a powerful example of that. I mean, they meticulously follow all these safety procedures, even when everything seems fine.
Yeah, it's a great point. It's like a surgeon scrubbing their hands before every operation. It's not just about routine. It's about creating a sense of control, and minimizing risks in a situation that is inherently uncertain.
So how do we actually apply this principle of focusing on what we can control in our own lives? Let's say somebody's feeling anxious about a job interview.
Okay.
What advice would you give them?
Well, instead of worrying about things like, will the interviewer like me?
Yeah.
They can focus on preparing themselves thoroughly for the interview. Things like researching the company, practicing their answers to common questions, choosing an outfit that makes them feel confident.
So it's about taking concrete steps to prepare for the situation, almost like having a plan, even if you can't predict the outcome.
Exactly. And that sense of preparedness can really make a huge difference in managing anxiety.
Right.
Because even if things don't go exactly as planned, we know we've done everything we can to set ourselves up for success. And that sense of preparedness can really boost our resilience too, when faced with unexpected challenges.
It's like you have a mental toolbox and you've got all the tools that you need to navigate these difficult situations.
Right.
And speaking of resilience, the third lesson from the article really stood out to me.
Okay.
It's the seek support and offer reassurance part.
Yeah.
It's like those pilots weren't just trying to calm their passengers.
Right.
They were creating this sense of community in the face of fear.
Absolutely. You're so right. They really tapped into the power of shared experience. And I think when we face our fears, it's so important to remember that we're not alone in this.
Right.
Reaching out to our support network, sharing our concerns, and offering comfort to others can make a huge difference.
It's like that old saying, a trouble shared is a trouble halved.
I love that.
It just makes me think about how just hearing someone say, I understand what you're going through,
Yeah.
can make us feel less isolated and more capable of dealing with whatever's happening.
Absolutely. Sometimes just knowing that someone else has been there, has felt those same fears, and has come out on the other side can be incredibly reassuring.
And it's not just about receiving support, though, is it? It's also about offering it.
Right.
I'm curious how that plays into building resilience.
That's a really fascinating aspect of it. When we offer support to others, it can really shift our perspective and help us access our own inner strength, you know?
Right.
It's like by helping someone else carry their load, we suddenly realize we're a lot stronger than we thought we were.
It's almost like flexing a muscle. The more we practice empathy and support,
Exactly.
the stronger those muscles become, and the more readily we can access them when we need them.
I love that. That's a fantastic way to put it. And that actually brings us to the final lesson from the article.
Okay.
The one that really resonated with me. And that's find strength in competence.
Okay.
It's about more than just, feeling brave. It's about actually building the skills and knowledge that we need to face our fears head on.
At first when I read that, I thought, oh, this is just about being good at what you do.
Right.
But as I read more, it really struck me that it's about how that competence translates into a really deep sense of confidence.
Exactly. Think about those pilots again.
Okay.
I mean, they've undergone such rigorous training.
Right.
They've practiced countless scenarios, and they know their aircraft inside and out. That mastery gives them a level of confidence that allows them to stay calm even in the face of unexpected turbulence.
So it's not just about blindly believing in yourself.
Right.
It's about backing up that belief with real skills and knowledge.
Exactly.
It's like that saying, knowledge is power.
It
The
is.
more we know, the more equipped we are to deal with whatever comes our way.
Precisely. And it's not about becoming some kind of superhuman expert. It's
Right.
really about continually learning, growing, and expanding our comfort zones. It's about taking those small steps each day to become more skilled, more knowledgeable, and more confident in our ability to navigate life's challenges.
So if you're facing a fear that feels really overwhelming,
Yeah.
what's a good first step towards building that sense of competence?
I would say start by breaking down that fear into smaller, more manageable parts.
Okay.
What are the specific skills or knowledge gaps that are contributing to this fear? And once you've identified those, you can start to address them one by one.
Okay.
It might be taking a class, reading a book, or just simply practicing a new skill in a safe environment.
So it's about taking those baby steps, those small wins that help us build momentum and gain confidence along the way.
Right. It's just like those pilots. They didn't just jump into the cockpit on day one,
Right.
They went through years of training and practice to get where they are.
It makes me think about how fear and courage aren't necessarily opposites.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's not about becoming fearless. It's about developing the courage
Yeah.
to face your fears,
That's a good point.
to learn from them,
Yeah.
and to keep moving forward.
Right.
And these pilot stories really show us that it's possible to do that with grace and determination.
Yeah. And what's so inspiring about their example is that they didn't shy away from acknowledging the fear. They embraced it, they addressed it, and then they channeled it into action.
Right.
They didn't let it paralyze them. They actually used it as fuel to become even more skilled and resilient.
And that's such a powerful message for all of us, isn't it?
It is.
It's not about erasing our fears. It's about learning how to dance with them.
I love that.
And that dance can be beautiful and empowering and ultimately transformative.
Yeah.
Wow, it feels like we've been handed this incredible roadmap, by these pilots. A guide to navigating any challenge with courage and determination.
It's a good reminder that even when things feel really chaotic and uncertain,
Right.
we still have the power to choose how we respond.
Yeah.
We can choose to let fear just dictate our actions.
Right.
Or we can choose to rise above it and tap into our own inner strength.
They've shown us that it's not about being superhuman or having some, special gene for bravery.
Right.
It's really about embracing our humanity, acknowledging our vulnerabilities,
Yeah.
and finding ways to move forward even when we're afraid.
It's like that quote by Nelson Mandela, courage is not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it.
Right.
Those pilots weren't fearless. They
Yeah.
were just incredibly courageous. They chose to face their fears, acknowledge them,
Right.
address them, and then focus on what they could control.
And isn't that what resilience is all about?
It is.
Not avoiding or denying our fears,
Right.
but developing the strength and the skills to move through them.
Exactly.
These pilots have given us a masterclass in resilience.
They have.
And it's a lesson that applies to so much more than just flying, right?
It does. It's a lesson that can really empower us to take on any challenge. From public speaking to starting a business to navigating a difficult conversation.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that fear is a natural part of the human experience.
Right.
But it doesn't have to define us. We always have a choice.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Okay.
what is one thing that our listeners can take away from these pilot stories and apply to their own lives today?
That's a good question. I think the most powerful takeaway is that action is the antidote to fear. Like Amelia Earhart said, the most effective way to do it is to do it.
Right.
So what is one fear that you're facing right now?
Yeah.
And what's one small step you can take today to start moving through it?
Yeah. Maybe it's finally signing up for that class.
Yeah.
Or having that difficult conversation.
Right.
Or just even acknowledging the fear and giving yourself permission to feel it.
Exactly.
Whatever it is, remember that you have the strength within you to take that first step.
You do. And remember, you don't have to do it alone.
Right.
Reach out to your support network, find a mentor, or connect with someone who's been through a similar experience.
Yeah.
The journey of overcoming fear is often best traveled together.
So to our listeners, we encourage you to embrace the lessons of these courageous pilots. Acknowledge your fears. Focus on what you can control.
Right.
Seek support and offer reassurance, and find strength in competence.
Yes.
The journey might be challenging,
It might.
but the rewards are huge.
They are. Remember, the most effective way to do it is to do it. Take that first step and watch
Thanks for
yourself
joining
soar.
today's chat on Your Daily English Spark. If you enjoyed this session and want to keep improving your English, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. What topic would you like us to cover next? Let me know in the comments. And don't miss our next episode, where we'll dive into mastering small talk. See you next time.